Allocate turmoil in Ireland amid 300% rise in asylum seekers with violence as machete attacks and drug-fueled brawls become the new normal on the streets of Dublin. And here's a leaflet they're dishing out to all the homeowners in Ireland: girls to stay indoors after 6 p.m. until further notice. New arrivals to this area are not accustomed to Irish cultural norms at this transitionary time. Read between the lines on that one. This guy, and by the way, as I said, where is the IRA when you need it? The answer is they were always funded by MI5 and MI6. They're again another proxy organisation. Well, they'd be out there right now, they're not. Spain, and by the way, that's how you can take out somebody like Margaret Thatcher without you take them out with a proxy, and that's what they tried to do in Brighton, if you remember. This is Spain. They just naturalised 500,000 Africans coming on.
If we don't start to seriously fight for our continent, for our religion, for our people, our countries, then this time that we live in will go down in history as the time in which Western nations no longer had to get invaded by hostile armies in order to be conquered. This time will then go down in history as the period in which the invader was actively invited in by a corrupt elite. And not only did this corrupt elite invite the enemy in, they made the native population pay for it too.
Ava was banned from speaking at Tommy Robinson's event yesterday. There was a whole bunch of them banned, but Ava was banned as well. She got to speak at CPAC, and she's a Dutch activist who's been speaking out about this. Rapes in Europe were by far the leading at the top there. And this, of course, is what Tommy Robinson brought out, the rape of Britain and all of the rapes that were going on around Rochdale and it's going on absolutely everywhere. So this is the problem we've got, and yet the British population are being told to shut up and not say a word about any of this. And this is the reason why this thing is going to break very, very soon.
But London's the safest city in Europe.
Rape crime reports. This gives you some of the figures that have been tabulated. So yeah, it's a rotten situation. And again, the government then puts this out. This is the definition of extreme right-wing terrorist ideology. If you believe Western culture is under threat from mass migration and a lack of integration by certain ethnic and cultural groups, you are an extreme right-wing terrorist. So once again, I ask the question, how do you punish this? How do you punish any of it? Let's just take a quick look. We've seen, of course, this whole business coming out, and you're going to learn things about Charlie that are going to be coming out. British Royal steps down because of his association with notorious Phillip. Whoops, wrong picture. Andrew Epstein, of course, you've seen that. Once again, none of this would have happened with Andrew if the bad people were still in charge. The truth about Andrew would bury the royal family for good. Warnings: Epstein may have sold Prince's most intimate secrets to Putin. Blah blah blah. On it goes. Okay, so where does all this end up? Well, let's take a quick look. What's in it for Britain and what's in store? Well, some of you remember that on February the 13th, this guy here launched Restore Britain. And notice who's giving him the tap on the shoulder. Elon Musk. And if Elon Musk is tapping Rupert, Trump's tapping him. Now, this comes back to the whole thing that's going on with Restore and Reform right now. All I can tell you is, some of you may remember that Nigel was invited over to America last year to speak at CPAC. Do you remember that? Now, to get invited to speak at the Conservative Political Action Conference is a big, big deal. And normally, it's only heads of state. So Viktor Orban of Hungary would go there, Nayib Bukele of El Salvador, Javier Milei of Argentina, and so on. Bolsonaro spoke there as well. So, of course, Nigel's not a head of state, but he's invited over there and he speaks at CPAC, and then he comes back to Britain, and immediately after that, you hear Elon Musk coming out going, Nigel's not the guy. Remember that? Yes. Okay. And then when he gets back, he immediately starts doing things to reform that begin to horse off their political base. And that is, of course, you've had Nadim Zahawi and Zia Youssef that are in there. But then what he starts doing is saying, well, not only are we not doing mass deportations, we have to basically make an arrangement with Islam in this country, because by 2050, they're going to be a majority voting bloc. So he's actually going after that voting bloc. Well, this has created problems for a huge number of people, resulting in when Rupert launches Restore on the 13th of February, he's now up around 150,000 members that he's managed to achieve in just 6 weeks. Now, the Conservative Party in its current state, in its current form, incarnation. It's been around since 1834 and they've only got 116,000 members. So the Conservatives are a busted flush. So you've got a very interesting situation cropping up here. And Rupert, of course, if you go onto his website, you make up your own mind about the guy, go onto his website. I sat my wife and my mother-in-law down in front of the 25-minute speech he gave, and you can see exactly that speech I showed my wife and my mother-in-law, which is at the restorebritain.org.uk website. And within 5 minutes or so, Jill, my mother-in-law, comes out and goes, that's the guy, right there. So you're going to see that he's speaking very, very plainly and frankly about the measures required to be able to get this country back. And in my view, we know that Nigel and Reform are not going to do that. They have no intention of doing the mass deportations. And we've got a situation where Britain would obviously be changed forever if the wrong people get in there. So you've essentially got two choices. You've got a political solution to this, or it's going to be civil war.
Watching Trump and the Americans, it has made me even more determined than ever to restore our unique country through a great repeal act when Labour falls at the next election. I don't particularly care if we're liked by the rest of the world. I care if we're respected, because right now, Britain is a joke, and it has been for some time. I want the British government to put the British people at the top of the agenda. Yeah! We should make no apologies for that. Learn from Trump. Let's be unapologetically patriotic. Slash tax across the board. Enforce the border. Deport those with no right to be here. Accept biological reality. Fight back against wokery. Bulldoze nonsensical foreign aid. Eradicate DEI. Deliver sensible infrastructure. Carpet bomb public sector waste. Brutally crack down on crime. And plenty more. Let's make Great Britain great again. Thank you.
So you can see the full 25 minutes that he's giving on the website there, and by all means go on and take a look at the website where he lays it all out. Isn't it interesting this advert came out from the Restore with a Q in? I don't know what that's supposed to mean, but I think we're going to have a very, very interesting few months ahead of us, certainly leading down. I think we've got a general election coming up very soon. And of course the cards are now reduced to any sort of distraction that's going to get people away from this whole thing. So this is why you see the classic don't look over there, come over here, because it's all about aliens now. So you see the newspapers talking about this whole thing. Bank must plan for crisis sparked by alien invasion. Here we are, ET exists, 95% of educated people believe in alien life. They just won't admit it to their friends and family. And on you go with this whole thing. Top UFO experts reveal whistleblower activity will finally bring disclosure in 2026. The evidence is aligning. So again, stick with our newsletter if you want to find out this, because there's a lot of stuff coming through just on that alone, which is pretty mind-blowing to say the least. Now, for the last couple of tours, we've been talking about how the Alliance, the good guys, may just bring this whole thing to a halt. Like if things get out of control, they may just create a situation which essentially shuts down countries, either this country or a multiple bunch of countries. And the way you do that is you simply pull the plug with a cyber attack. And a cyber attack basically is not you being out without the internet just for a few hours. This is catapulting you back to the 1500s. So no internet, no TV, no computers, no power, no credit card facilities or machines, no light, no phones, no heaters, no hot water, no fridge, no freezer, and so on. Right? And now, isn't it interesting how the media is getting us warmed up to this whole idea as well? I mean, we've been looking at essentially, and by the way, we have a resilience pack we can email over to you if you want to, but I think that this thing isn't really going to last more than 3 days, at the maximum I would say 5 days. What we're seeing from the media are articles coming out, for instance, based on this. Families to be urged to stockpile 3 days worth of food and water to help build national resilience amid fears of prolonged power cuts, cyber attacks and floods. There it is. Cyber attack contingency plans should be put on paper, firms are told, and so on. So I don't think you need to go bonkers over this whole thing, but this would be an opportunity for them to activate the emergency broadcast system, and essentially if there's widespread disorder occurring on the streets, they can essentially shut this thing down and hit the reboot button on it. So don't look back. It's going to be a fascinating few months coming up, and we're here to have front row seats with it. Don't look back. You're not going that way. There is a new world around the corner, and this new world, which we've looked at before, how many people have heard about free energy? There's a limitless amount of energy that can be literally farmed for free straight out of the atmosphere. We've shown Tesla experiments, and Nikola Tesla proved that essentially there's an unlimited amount of energy you can generate to run. And he was basically using this etheric energy to light all of those massive fairs. You remember the world fairs that they used to have in all the different Chicago, Buffalo, they had one over in Paris. And Tesla was lighting some of these just using etheric energy. So you see, and this is a fascinating subject if you want to get onto free energy and how you can make these free energy machines yourself very straightforwardly. So we have a very, very interesting future ahead of us. Nobody really knows what this thing looks like at the moment, other than the fact that a huge number of people now are all heading in the same direction on this thing. And this leaves the enemy in a bit of a dodgy state, because the only thing they can do is, I mean, number one, they are passionately anti-God, they are Satanists. So how do they solve this little conundrum where they're born into the world with nothing, they amass everything, massive fortunes, and then they die with nothing? The answer is they don't want to die. What they're trying to do is create immortality through AI. Get that? Isn't that something? And by the way, you can ask this question. I was having a chat with one of my researchers the other day, and he said, I think we're here for maybe one of three reasons. Phillip, I went, all right, go ahead. He says, I think we're here either for education, entertainment, or punishment. So I think we're here for education. I think we're here to learn. And we get into this because some people say, well, ultimately, Phillip, you're going to die. And my response to that is, okay, then what? Do you ever think about then what? Then what launched the entire Origins series over there. Now, we all know what religion says, and what we've done in Origins is we've kind of set that to one side and taken a good look, and most people haven't done this in this sort of depth, take a good look at the world we find ourselves in at the moment. What can we learn from that? What does science have to say about it? You will be blown away. Absolutely amazing. And so we have, I'm 65, it was more of my life behind me than in front of me. I don't care. Well, you're going to die one day. Yeah, then what? Right? Look into it. If this is fascinating for you, we're here undergoing an educational program, in my humble opinion. So you can get into Origins and we kind of get on with that. We've got 2 other books that are already out. We put book 4 on hold because of this amazing stuff we're learning at the moment, which we'll be put into book 4. If you want to get some tasters on book 4, email me. I've got 2 amazing chapters I can send over to you, and happy for you to have those. The ABCs of Disease we've been looking at is essentially the Credence book that kind of gets into everything, lays it all out, and this is a brilliant starting point if you find yourself in trouble, you or anybody you know. We've looked at cancer in a lot of detail. Cancer has been an essential study of mine for about 35 years now, and again, nothing to fear here, lots going on, and many people around to help you out. The diets need to change, obviously, and we need to go back to basically suiting what our physiology requires in the way of food. The other thing we can do when we pass on is to leave information behind us so they don't have to make the same mistakes that we make, right? As there's one thing that's totally careless is if our sons and daughters and grandchildren start committing the same errors that we've committed because we never told them. And that was the whole thought behind the little book of real wisdom. So dip into some of those and see if that's something. By the way, this book itself is very, very interesting to read once every 6 months because your life is changing through a 6-month period. Have a read through. It takes 20 minutes to read this with a cup of tea. And all of a sudden you're going to see stuff leaping out at you that perhaps didn't leap out at you last time you read that. See how that goes. One of those things in there is this. Experience is what you get when you didn't get what you wanted. If you think about that. If you didn't get what you wanted, that's a learning curve right there. Yeah, it's interesting. So, Credence Weekly Situation Report, as we finish, Steve over there, if you're not on this already, then just go ahead and give him an email address and a fake name and we'll get that out to you. It goes out usually every Friday, and this keeps you absolutely bang up to date with everything that's going on. By the way, some people say, oh, Philip, I'd rather not know. I want front row seats. None of you are avoiding action movies in the theatre. You're in the middle of an action movie right now, okay? So, but I understand, if you want to just back off and say, oh, just wake me up and it's all done. That's fine too. There's my email address. I've put it up a few times just so you